big historic moments of horrific intolerance and violence. Dr. Ayers, our Civil War historian and speaker last week, reminded us, though, that we too live in historic times. So today I challenge you to listen deeply and examine your own attitudes and behavior. How do you, in your life, yes, even on our campus, in perhaps small ways, encourage or dispel the roots of intolerance? And now, Mr. Rusesabagina will be introduced by Miles Williams from the Black Leadership and Culture Club, Jin Nam from the Directed Studies and the Rwanda Trip, and Alberto Rivera, recipient of the Righteous Conversations Project Fellowship for the Rwanda Trip.
Welcome, Harvard-Westlake community. We are honored today to host a real-life hero of a genocide that shocked the world, Mr. Paul Rusesabagina. Portrayed by Don Cheadle in the Academy Award-winning film Hotel Rwanda, Paul saved the lives of more than 1,200 people during the 1994 massacres. 3 times as destructive as the Holocaust, the Rwandan genocide claimed the lives of nearly 1 million people in 100 days. Though a delicate balance of diplomacy and dissuasion, for over 2 months, Paul sheltered terrified people and talked murderous madmen out of their mission to kill them. Often called the Schindler of Rwanda, Paul was awarded the United States Presidential Medal of Freedom for his courage in the face of unthinkable horror.
April 7, 2004 marks the 20th anniversary of the genocide. Recovery in Rwanda has been remarkable. It is now regarded as the safest country in Africa for foreign visitors and investment. But there are still many people living with the traumatic consequences of history. If we are to understand and learn from the tragedy of the past, if we are to make the promise of never again real for the future, survivor stories must be told. Paul Rusesabagina's courage during the genocide secured lives of hundreds, and he continues to save lives now. He founded the Hotel Rwanda Rusesabagina Foundation in order to promote an understanding of the dangerous conditions which led to misunderstanding, hatred, and violence, the seeds of future genocides. Paul's foundation also provides educational assistance for orphans of Africa's civil wars and AIDS epidemic.
Amazingly, Paul calls himself an ordinary man, recognizing the universal humanity, the potential for good, and the capacity for sinister in everyone. Paul speaks to us today about the will to act your conscience. You will hear his message of courage told with great humility. He reminds us that history never dies, that we live out our collective histories every day in both ways, good and bad. As we grow ever more connected as a global community, Paul's observation that kindness is not an exception and violence is not a rule should give us all pause. We all have the power to embrace this hopeful concept. In Paul's words, this is why I say that the individual's most potent weapon is a stubborn belief in the triumph of common decency. It is a simple belief, but it is not at all naive. It is in fact the shrewdest attitude possible. It is the best way to sabotage evil. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in offering Paul Rusesabagina a warm welcome.
And we'll start by showing the trailer for the film to give you a sense of what happened.
My name is Paul Rusesabagina. I am the house manager of the most luxurious hotel in the capital of Rwanda, a place that my family and I happily called our home. Until the day everything changed.
Daddy, there are soldiers on the streets.
They're killing everyone. It's a massacre.
The United Nations are here now.
We're here as peacekeepers, not as peacemakers.
We've got trouble at the gate.
This is a 4-star hotel, not a refugee camp. I have no means to protect these people.
When a country descended into madness.
They're killing Tutsi children to wipe out the next generation.
No!
And the world turned its back.
How can they not intervene? Hundreds of thousands are dying.
If people see this, they'll say, oh my God, that's horrible. And then go on eating their dinners.
One man had to make a choice.
All the whites are leaving, even the UN soldiers.
All the superpowers, everything you believe in, Paul. They're not gonna stop the slaughter.
We have been abandoned. There will be no rescue. We can only save ourselves. Get down, get down!
United Artists presents the true story of a man who fought impossible odds.
I cannot leave these people to die.
To save everyone he could.
They say you led the massacres. You will tell them the truth. I will tell them nothing unless you help me.
And created a place.
Go inside the hotel.
Where hope survived.
You are a good man, Paul.
We need to help one another. That is the only thing that is keeping us alive.
Hotel Rwanda.
Paul Rusesabagina.
Good morning, everyone. Are we there? Excellent. After seeing such a clip of Hotel Rwanda, recalling the past, I sometimes become a little bit nervous. But today, I'm going to try not to be as nervous as that. As Hotel Rwanda says, introduced me, I'm Paul Rusesabagina. And Rusesabagina in Kinyarwanda has a meaning. That name means something. Has someone ever read my autobiography and known what it means? Actually, this name, as long as it is a sentence. Gusesa in Kinyarwanda means to disperse. Abagina means enemies. So Ru is then he who disperses enemies. That is the meaning of my name. I was born and raised in Rwanda, in a small country called Rwanda, from a mixed couple. One of my parents was a Hutu, the other one was a Tutsi. And throughout our history, it has happened that both ethnic groups have been fighting, always, for power. So, in 1990, I'm one of the witnesses who were in Rwanda when the Tutsi rebels who had gone to exile attacked Rwanda fighting for power. So as the war was raging throughout the whole country, many Hutu refugees started fleeing other zones being occupied by the Tutsi rebels because they were also killing them. By late 1993, and this is what I want to tell you, because sometimes when people see things like a genocide, they think that it came out of nowhere at a given day, given hour, finds itself in a given place and disappears as it came. We saw it coming. It was when we were seeing it coming. It was like a mother seeing a car in a slow motion going to hit her kid, and instead of doing something, closing ears and eyes so that this happens when she is not seeing it, when she pretends not to hear. So by that time, because people were fleeing the zones occupied by the Tutsi rebels, then by 1993 early 1994, you could see a lot of heavy tensions. You could see, we had 1.2 million already people surrounding the capital city of Kigali, coming to Begin town, going to sleep outside in displaced camps, without food, without water, with dying every day with the disasters in camps, and without even schools for their future generations. You could hear that time that infiltrated Rwandan Patriotic Front, the rebels' side, we would come into bars, throw in grenades, and they could go into other public places, such as bus stations or taxi stations in Kigali, throw in grenades, and the militias were also doing the same things. They could come into houses, break windows, throw in grenades when people are sleeping, and kill them. But that time, the tensions were so clear. The whole region was more or less kind of burning. And we even left our homes and went to stay in neighboring cities. But for us, the two of us, my wife who is sitting there, Tatiana, and myself and our children, we could not go very far from the hotel because the hotel manager is someone who has got to be there. If he's a committed manager, he's got to be there, to be available every day, 24 hours a day, 7/7, and even almost 365 days a year. So we went to stay in the hotel because was so dangerous. We could see. So then came April 6, 1994, when it became just like adding oil, pouring oil on a burning fire by killing the president, the then president of Rwanda, the president of Burundi, their staff, their government members, and many others. These were just like pouring oil on a burning fire. I will never forget that evening. I was having dinner with Thomas, my wife's brother, and his wife. That day we had helped them. They were they were a young couple. The wife was 26 years old, and her husband was 28, if my memory is good. So we had helped them. This young woman, who also had 2 babies, had just graduated from the university, and she have helped them to get a job in a Dutch company selling cars. So we were celebrating, having dinner. Tatiana could not join us because she worked a little bit too late, and then she went straight home. Lucky enough, she went home because at 8:30 p.m., when we were eating, seated just enjoying, celebrating, she heard the missiles hitting the plane and immediately urged me and her brother and sister-in-law to go home. I will never forget that image when they escorted me to my car. I was the elder. I was almost 40 years old, and they were still in the 20s. So the young ones always escort, in our tradition, the elders. They escorted me to my car. And by the time we arrived at the car, we stood for a few seconds, and I just chatted and told them that, listen, you guys, go home. I will see you tomorrow. But unfortunately for them, tomorrow never came. They went their way, were killed, never found. But fortunately, as you see in Hotel Rwanda, we found their 2 babies. The elder one was 2 years and 3 months old, and her sister was 11 months old. As you see in Hotel Rwanda, for those who saw Hotel Rwanda, that is exactly how it happened. So today, thank God, their babies are our babies, and they are grown-up girls. One is now a junior in Georgetown University, Washington, D.C., and her sister is a sophomore in Northwestern University in Chicago. But this was then the beginning of an endless mass massacre. You can't grasp what happened in Rwanda, since immediately that evening at 8:30, immediately the media spread the message, and in the whole of the capital city, I remember myself driving for about 11, 12 kilometers. That is about 7 miles from my hotel to my house. The whole city was empty. They were setting up roadblocks all over. And I tried to come back, but I couldn't, because I immediately was informed of what happened. And the following morning, I saw many neighbors coming to my house. I know you will be asking me some questions. If you happen to ask me questions, do never ask me this one, because I don't have an answer. That's why did people come to my house? I have never known why so far. But at the end of the day, we had 26 neighbors who were in my house. And then we starved together for about 3 days, until April the 9th, when I was standing in my living with one of my neighbors, an old man called Michel, chatting, and other people hiding back in rooms. And we saw soldiers climbing my gate. When we saw them climbing my gate, that was actually, I was going to start a long way of travels, which was not going to end before years. So at that time, I'm telling you this, because that day, those soldiers who were climbing were soldiers sent by a new government. That day, a new government had just been set up, and they decided to take over my hotel. So I was not there. And I do not know either why I did this. But before I left on the 6th, I took all the keys of rooms which were not occupied. And then I kept them into my office. The room keys, the seller's keys, the store's keys, I took everything into my office and locked the office. So when the new government came in, they decided to take over my hotel, but had no access to rooms, no access to food, no access to drinks. Then they were in an obligation to send a contingent of 20 soldiers to come and pick me up, escort me to the hotel. I will never forget how these young guys looked. Well, they looked so cool when I spoke. When I, first of all, approached them, and opened a kind of window of dialogue, and told them that, listen, can I help you? Because when we were standing and saw them coming in, my neighbor said, these guys are looking for me. They want to kill me. They know I'm in your house. Before they come in this house and kill you, let me deliver my skin so that they kill me and feel satisfied. I looked at him and told him that, Michel, whoever comes to my house is never coming for you. These guys are coming for me. So I went to meet them. May I help you, please? Yes. You're the manager? Yes. But they have sent us to come and escort you to the hotel. I said, yes, it is a good idea, but I cannot leave behind my family. Imagine, in the family, we used to be 6 people, 4 children, 2 daughters and 2 sons, my wife and myself, and then maybe 2 housemaids and a watchman. That was it. But that time, that day, you can imagine those people have been talking about, plus 26 more. How do you have such a big family? Who is family and who is not? But they seemed to be so cool. Told me that, listen, take everyone. I took everyone. I started packing people into my car, my hotel van, my neighbor's car, just like potatoes. But you see, there is nothing impossible. I have noticed that. We, all of us, happened to fit, and we drove less than a mile away from my house on a street of Kigali. This was not innocent. On a street of Kigali where we could see dead bodies, some of them missing their heads, some others bellies opened. It's just horrible. And I saw them slowing down and stopping. And I saw them, all of these guys, jumping down of their cars, and each and everyone coming to me with his gun on my head. And their chief, the captain who was leading them, handing me over a gun, telling me that, listen, you traitor, you are lucky. We are not killing you today. But have this gun and kill all of your cockroaches in these cars. Dehumanizing people before killing them. That day, try to be in my place, in my position. How do you deal with this? For about 5 minutes, I remained silent, not speaking, not talking. In the meantime, people like Michelle and Makar are telling me that, Paul, please buy my life. Pay whatever they want you to pay. If I don't reimburse, my children will. Please help me. And then, after 5 minutes of silence, watching this young man, he was a young captain, I just looked at him and told him that, my friend, myself, I do understand you. Even if you don't understand anything, for the sake of saving lives, do calm down and listen to your opponents. That day, I just calmed down to their ground and told them that, listen, you guys, I do understand you. You guys are hungry. You guys are thirsty. You guys are stressed by this war. You are tired. I don't blame you. I do understand you. But myself, I don't know how to use guns. And I was very sincere. I had never handled a gun up to that age of almost 40. I never knew how it worked. So I did not know how to use guns. But even if I knew, I told them, I don't see any good reason why I should kill all of these old men. There was a young lady holding a baby, and I also pointed out that baby, a 3-year-old young girl, and I told them, my friends, are we sure that the enemy we are fighting today is this baby? Are we sure that the enemy we are fighting today is these old men? Then we came up, but we could find other solutions. In whatever we do, whether it is good or bad, there is always a solution. And I believe in negotiated solutions, then going to court and being sentenced. So that time, we started negotiating, and we came up with an agreement, which actually was not an agreement, but still, we happened to save lives. They drove us, after more than 2 hours of negotiations, they drove us up to the hotel. I went to the hotel safe, and then got cash, paid them off. That was one of the best lessons I have ever learned throughout my life. I had learned how to deal with evil, and this was going to follow me throughout my whole life, and even today. I just came in a face-to-face situation with the evil, and we came up with a compromise. So there is nothing impossible. To you young people, keep in mind that nothing is impossible whenever you are willing to make it and to get there. You always will. You will get there. So that day, our lives were saved. Our lives were saved, but imagine now we are going to hotels. You are becoming a manager of a hotel without electricity, of a hotel without running water, and yet your clients, your customers are increasing in numbers every hour, every day, every week. By the time I arrived in the Mikolin Hotel, this was on April 12th, I had 400 people, but at the end, I had more than 1,000, and I'll talk about this. My hotel was being also attacked many times, but how did we survive? I had a network, getting information. Each and every morning I had a briefing. Each and every night I was up, sending faxes, calling the whole world, knowing purposely that these people, when they left, they were not going to come back. But my main objective was at least to shame them, to always disturb them, shame them because they were supposed to intervene and they didn't. Instead of intervening, they rather withdrew. They pulled out of Rwanda and abandoned a whole nation to thugs and thieves, to gangsters, to all of those guys you might think of, to killers. So I had to always keep disturbing them, knowing that there is no hope to survive, but still keeping silence. Silence, keep this in mind, is agreement. Silence is a complicity. So this was that. Every day, every hour, we were almost being attacked. I will never forget once when we were lucky, and just to make it short, it was on May 2nd. On May 2nd, the UN representatives who stayed in the country, because even the UN army withdrew, about 260 of them remained in the country. And that day, they came up with the Rwandan government, the UN executives, and also the rebels had been discussing. And that afternoon, they came up with an agreement to exchange us from the Mikolin, from the St. Paul Church, and many other places with other refugees who were in the National City Stadium, controlled then by the rebels. So our names were almost first on the list. So that day, Mikolin refugees came to me and told me that, Paul, we know you are leaving tomorrow. Tell us whether you are leaving or not. If you are leaving tomorrow, tell us so that we can go to the roof of the hotel and jump. The Mikolin Hotel, for those who have been to Rwanda, is not this building you see on the screen. That used to be a hospital in Johannesburg, where Hotel Rwanda was filmed. So it used to be an old hospital, abandoned, which was renovated for Hotel Rwanda. Then, now, people are telling me that we know we are going to be killed if you leave this place. And yet you have been the only one who has been dealing with these guys, saving our lives. Please, are you leaving? I said, no. They said, no, tell us so that we jump and die. That time our main concern was no more to die, no more to be killed, but rather how to be killed. A better death. That was our choice. A better death is a time whereby someone comes with a gun, puts it into your head, and kills you. But then the killers were torturing their victims, cutting tendons, going away to torture others, coming back and cutting hands, going away to torture others. People were dying slowly. I remember that day I had made a decision. That day I had made the toughest decision of my life. I had decided to send my wife and my children and then remain behind during that evacuation. Of course, in Hotel Rwanda, you see the manager making a last-minute decision. I made that decision, but it was made the previous day, and when I went to sleep at a late hour, it was around when I went to sleep, it was around midnight, around 1 a.m. the following morning. And at 1, when I arrived in the room, I looked like a completely changed human being. with a different, completely different face. And my wife and my children started asking me questions. But what happened? Wow, you are different. You look like a different person. I said, no, I'm not different. Then I was really different. My behavior was different. So I waited until a time when kids turned back to play, because that time there was no schedule. So they turned back to play. And I looked at my wife into her eyes and said that, listen, tomorrow you are going to be evacuated. Then I saw her and everybody turning back to me, telling me that, listen, you are talking about us. How about you? Aren't you coming with us? I said, no, I'm not coming with you. If I happen to come with you, and yet I have been the only one who has been discussing with these guys, preventing these people from death each and every day. If I happen to leave and these people are killed, I will never be a free man. I never drink and feel satisfied. I will never eat and feel satisfied. I'll be a prison of my own conscience. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, all of us have advisors. We have friends, we have parents, we have family members who can be our advisors. But there is one, and only one. Keep this in mind. This one is your own conscience. Your own conscience will never confuse right to wrong. So that day, I had listened to myself, and my own conscience was telling me that if you happen to abandon these people and they are killed, I will never set you free. You will never be a free man. Never eat and feel satisfied. Never drink and feel satisfied. You will be a prison of me. Then we discussed it over, and the following day, on May 3rd, in the evening, I saw my wife and my children taking off. Imagine you are seeing your beloved ones. You have got no hope of seeing them anymore. You don't have any hope that they are going to survive. You are not sure whether you yourself are going to survive. Now you are seeing them off. I escorted them as Hotel Rwanda shows, and unfortunately, they could not make it for a long time, for more than 2 miles. They were stopped, beaten, and by the time my wife came back, she was lying down in a UN truck, in other people's blood mixed with hers. And I went to pick her up, brought her to the bed. She was not as strong and shouting as you see in Hotel Rwanda. Then I brought her there to the bed, and she stayed for many weeks, unable even to move into the bed. All the hope we had vanished completely, until June the 17th. On June 17th, General Bizimungu, who is actually General Bizimungu, that is his name, I saw him coming into my house, and I offered him a drink. That evening we had a very exciting conversation. He knew he had lost the war. He knew he was the leader of the armies and everything, but he knew he had lost the war. The following day, when on the 18th, I remember very early in the morning, learning that after that militiamen were killing people in a neighboring church, which is less than half a mile away, just next door. From the hotel roof, you can see what is going on the compound of the church. And then that time when I learned that they were killing people on the compound of the church, I then said to myself that I'm the next target. And of course I was the next target. And then I started phoning, calling for help. And when I was calling, I saw the mayor of Kigali now coming into the hotel through the main entrance. I just rushed and went to meet him. Told him that, sir, you are the right man in the right time. I need you. You can save our lives. I know what is going on next door. I know that after killing those people, it will be us. And now, please, I need soldiers. I want to protect, to reinforce security around this hotel. I need police people. And he looked at me and told me that, listen, Paul, I don't have soldiers. Other soldiers are fighting. And police people are protecting official buildings, official ministries, embassies, and things like that. People are being hacked to death, and the police guys are protecting houses. I looked at him and told him that, my friend, all of this you and I see today will one day come to an end. And of course, all of this we see today will one day come to an end. There is nothing which will last forever. There is no rain which will just fall and never stop. We should keep this in mind. And the very day all of this is finished, history will call us, and we sit down there and we have to answer a few questions. So I told him that, my friend, all of this we see one day will come to an end, and that day you and I, we will have to respond to history. What if this day was today and we are sitting in front of history answering a few questions? Is this the right answer? He looked at me for a few seconds, and then he turned his back, joined his bodyguards, and I saw into his jeep. I saw him disappearing. I stayed standing outside there, admiring dead flowers under the sun of June 1994, and without any hope to survive, without any other solution in mind. But I remembered that I had an appointment with the General Bizimungu, his boss, at a diplomat hotel, where I went to give him some supplies, and I went to meet him. When I was standing with him in the cellars of the diplomat hotel, I was once again informed that after killing 150 people in the church, militias were getting into my hotel, because my hotel was the only place where no one was killed, no one was taken out. So I was informed that after killing more than 150 people, these guys were getting into my hotel. And I told him that, General, let us go down to the Mikolin Hotel. And immediately we went to the Mikolin Hotel, and General Bizimungu saved our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a drop of what we went through, in the Mikolin Hotel. From the beginning to the end, the Mikolin Hotel had 1,268 people. None of them had been killed, none of them had been taken out, and none of them had been even beaten in that place. And all of us were the following day, in the morning, since morning, they evacuated all of us from that place, and all of us to destinations of our own wish. And then each and everybody survived. And this is why you see on the big screen the movie Hotel Rwanda. It was an exception. The whole country had been devastated. So this was an exception. And why? Because only we remained who we are. We remained ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, but we remained ordinary. And I believe that the majority which was killing is always the majority, but the majority is not always right. Young people, my message to you today is that you have tomorrow into your hands. Tomorrow is yours. You are tomorrow's leaders, and you can make it if you really want. Do you want this world to be a better world? Because of you, this world will be better. Do you want it to remain the way it is? Yes, it will. Remain those people you are, that person you are. That one is the best. Remain yourself, Listen to your inner, to your own conscience. Don't follow the majority, because it is the majority. Follow you yourselves. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for those inspiring words. We now have a few minutes for questions and answers. So if students would please line up on the two aisles, and someone's managing the microphone over here. Who's that? Good. Come on, I know some of you have questions. There's one.
Hi. Oh, wow, that's loud. Okay. I know that you said that your philosophy is to remain yourself, but even in this time, I mean, obviously there was you weren't positive that you would save all these people. How did you keep going? Where did you find that bravery, and what inspired you, even after you had let go of your family, just to keep fighting for all these people?
What inspired me? That is a very interesting question, and very hard and tough at the same time. A lot of things, a lot of factors influence people's lives. Me, I was raised actually in a missionary school, a Seventh-day Adventist church school that I attended from kindergarten until the end of high school. In the end, when I went to university for the first time, I did theology. When I was a young boy, I was reading the Bible. At the age of 13, I had read the whole Bible from A to Z. I'm the one who chose my name, Paul. Paul the Apostle was my role model, if we can call it that way. In 1967, I was baptized when I was 13 years old in September. On September 8th, I think. That time, I was reading people like Mandela, Martin Luther King, who were actually also my heroes. I had my father, who was very different from many other fathers. I remember my father would tell us each and every year, for the New Year's Eve, all of us, whenever he was still alive, he was inviting all of us home. That was a rule. We could do anything anywhere else we wanted, but that day, that time, we were going there on December 31st and leaving at least on January 1st or 2nd, mostly for 2 nights, and 2 days and nights. So our father could slaughter a bull for his children. We could eat it and take the rest. So he could, each and every year, our father was assessing us. That was him. And each and every year, he would give us lessons. I remember one of the lessons he gave to me, to us, all of us. He told us that, listen, you guys, if you happen to see two brothers fighting, and your mission is to separate them, come, stand in the middle. Do not make a mistake of looking to your left-hand side. Do not even make another mistake of looking to your right-hand side, because that eye might always influence your decision. Stand in the middle, look up, and say the truth, and only the truth. So, in life, people are influenced by a lot of factors. Which one was the right one? You see, if you take 10 or 20 medicines, you do never know what healed the disease, but still, you are there, you are alive. So, a lot of things influence people's lives, including mine. I've told you a few factors that influenced my life and my living. Yes?
This question is a little similar, but I'm just wondering how you maintained hope that one day the genocide would end despite the UN withdrawing.
No, I did not get right the question.
How did you maintain hope that one day all the killing would stop and all the violence, because it seemed like it just was endless for so long?
Actually, when it was going on, at a given time, we lost hope. When we had a chance to be evacuated on May 3rd, all the hope we had was lost. For the first time in my life, I lost hope. But I said, and I was one of the most targeted people almost in the whole country, because I was protecting the most wanted people in the whole country. The elite intellectuals were in the Michelin Hotel. Up to 2010 or 2011, all the prime ministers of Rwanda since 1994, for more than 17 years, were the Michelin survivors. Many ministers and all leaders from all levels. So the elite intellectuals were there. The elite business people were there. The elite politicians were there. The elite of everything. So, and they wanted to kill them. So, knowing this purposely, I knew I was going to be killed. But when, that was my whole question. That was very good. Because there is only one thing I'm sure of. One day, I will die. But when is it? I do not know. So since I do not know, I was telling myself that, Paul, go and do another small thing. Continue until you die. Continue, keep doing whatever you can, whatever small thing you can, but go ahead and continue doing it. That kept hope alive. That kept hope alive. And until July 4th, when I noticed that when that genocide was, so to speak, ended. So I found myself still alive. I was like a dreamer, because I wasn't supposed to be there. I was like someone who just came from a dream. Because I was supposed to be dead. And this is why each and every day I breathe, I call it a bonus. Each and every year in my life is a bonus. Very soon, if I go up to April 6th, then I'll be having a big bonus of 20 years. Because my life was supposed to end in 1994, Why not me? Why are all of those others and not me? That is also a question mark. But still, keep hope alive in whatever situation you are. You never know. This is not your day, and tomorrow might not be your day. Keep doing a small thing, adding it to another small thing. You might cross the bridge. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, it's really nice to meet you. A little while after you said that your wife returned to you, you said you became a target, and I was wondering why.
Can you talk a little bit?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. After you said that that your wife returned to you, said you became a target. Why was it that the rebels didn't target your hotel beforehand, before you started calling for help?
I did not get the question. Did someone get the question clearly?
Okay.
Yes. The militias rather, because I was on the government side. Yeah. She's telling me that I was a target, and then what prevented the rebels from coming to my hotel. That time, I was in a place which was controlled by the then government. So the then government, the then army, was working with militias. Of course, there are also some other factors. In life, you save money. Of course, 90%, if not all of you here, have got bank accounts. On your bank accounts, you always drop a small coin whenever you can. And your wish is to make it always to make your bank account bigger and bigger. That is everybody's main objective. But also, whenever you can, stockpile a few favors, because you never know. As you put some cash into your bank account, also stockpile a few favors, because you never know, you might one day cash them in. So I had kind of stockpiled favors. I had invested in that as well as a hotel general manager. And I happened to be to work in the elite hotels of Kigali, the Mikolin and the Serena Hotel, which is used to be the Diplomat. They were the best hotels of Kigali. And I was in touch with each and everyone. And I had some opportunities of sharing at least a coffee, a glass of wine with one or another of all of those leaders, politicians, army guys. And when time came to cash in those favors, I always say that I cashed them all in and I borrowed very heavily. All of those favors. That helped me. Yes, please?
Well, first of all, it's great to hear you speak, but I was wondering what sort of, I know that in the movie that they mentioned a lot of the UN peacemaker support or lack of peacemaker support. I was wondering how you found outside forces either helping you or not helping you. What do you think for something like this in the next time?
That is a very interesting question. The United Nations. There is one thing we should always remember. Up to that time, until recently in the Congo a few months ago, about 5 months ago, and this is what we did not know, the UN mission has never been to make peace or keep peace. Their mission has always been to observe, and then at the end of the day, sit down, draft a report, and send it to New York and say, okay, we have seen those guys butchering each other. This is what happened. And the United Nations in Rwanda did a lot of harm in 1994. Because after signing the peace accords of Arusha on August 4th, 1993, the United Nations decided to send into Rwanda peace, the UN forces. And they sent in 2,700 soldiers under the authority of a Canadian general, Romeo Dallaire. But on day one, and when we saw them coming in, I told you that as we had fled our home, we had been living in the hotel for 6 months, and we happened to travel in March 1994. That time, I had a managers meeting in Brussels, the headquarters. So I said, why can't I take this opportunity? Take my younger son, who was 18 months old, and my wife, and then we go out also for vacation. We went to Europe, attended my meetings, visited friends in Germany and Switzerland where I used to go to school. Went to France and visited almost everybody. On March 31st, in the morning, very early at 7:30, we landed in Kigali. 1994. This was 6 days before the presidents were killed. When we landed in Kigali, because we trusted the United Nations, we did not go to the hotel as we used to do. We rather went to our house because we trusted the United Nations. And many people had gone to neighboring towns because Kigali was no more safe. Many other people who had crossed the borders and went to Bujumbura, to Kampala. When we saw the international community in, we said, now peace is at the door, already in the country. Let us go back. And we, on day one, when the Rwandan army of the genocide, on April 7, starting from 6 in the morning, the Rwandan army was smart enough to kill 10 of the Belgian soldiers among those peacekeepers. And now we saw the international community running away, abandoning all of us. So the United Nations were not there to keep peace. They were not there to make peace. They were there to just draft reports and send them. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any good reason to explain what has been going on in the Congo, which had more than 20,000 UN peacekeeping force in a territory which is about just 2 provinces. In 2 provinces, they would have protected each and everyone, but their mission was not as aggressive as that until just recently in May this year. That is when they decided to send into the Congo 3,000 peacemakers, and they are making peace. So, this being said, once again, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you for all you have done, for the invitation, and still keep in mind my message, especially you young people. I would not be surprised if one day, when I be an old man, to hear that one of you is a president of this country. So, you never know, maybe you are the solution. Why not you? It is your duty, your obligation to stand up for what you believe in and also help us to prevent such disasters by getting involved, by being the voices of those voicelesses. And to be able to do this, you can join us on our foundation's website, the Hotel Rwanda Rusesabagina Foundation. Sign out and then join the team and save the world. I believe you can make it. Thank you.